Welcome back everyone to the video game fanfic plot. I am your host Nat1995 with a new chapter for you all. To the story A Spark of Life, an alert to remember. The moment that Petunia opened her eyes, she let out an eardrum-busting scream that caused the Decepticons around her to cover their heads in a vain attempt to cut off the noise. It only ended when she had to stop to breathe and Megatron slammed his hand next to her, causing her to fall over in the aftershock. Needless to say, she didn't scream again as his red eyes stared down at her with barely suppressed anger. "You will only speak when spoken to, and you will not make that horrid noise again, you worthless little squishy thing." The woman could only nod dumbly as the massive robot loomed over her. "I want to know everything that you know about your nephew, Harry James Potter, and if you insult him just once, I will make sure that there isn't a piece of you big enough for the other squishy humans to identify." Her voice was higher than normal, but she managed to somehow force the words out of her mouth. "He was born July 31st, the second before it struck midnight on August 1st, to my sister Lily and her husband James. He has black hair that never behaves and has his mother's bright green eyes. He's a wizard just like both of his parents." There is nothing in the government websites about wizards other than the websites dedicated to myths and legends. "I will not tolerate lies, woman." The robot leaned over her and she felt her heart pick up in fear. "They hide themselves from all those that do not have magic. Most of their laws are based on making sure that their existence does not become public. The only reason that I know about it is because my sister had magic and so does her son. The government does know about them, but they can't tell anyone that doesn't already know." Petunia could see that none of the creatures around her were ready to believe in something that they could not prove. "I have no reason to lie to you about this. They have an entire civilization that is kept completely separate from normal people so that nothing like the Salem witch trials ever happens again." She could almost see the tension roll off of the obvious leader as he searched the internet and found what he was looking for. So this more powerful version of a human hides from the rest to make sure that there are no more senseless killing in a vain attempt to kill them off. "You will tell me everything that you know about this wizard world and about your nephew." I felt a shiver pass down my spine as I followed Epps around the bustling base. Every Autobot was scrambling to make sure that the base was ready for when the others that they had managed to contact would arrive. Most of the humans had quickly learned to stay out of their way after several of them almost got squished in the bedlam. The only one that didn't seem to be completely of their rocker was Bumblebee, and he was spending most of his time hovering around Sam and making sure that none of the others found him and made him join the ruckus. There was something between the two of them, and judging from the looks that Sam's girlfriend kept sending Bumblebee, I'm not the only one to notice something. "Where is that blasted boy?" The toad-like woman known as Dolores Umbridge paced her office at a fast clip as she tried to think of a way to salvage her ruined plans. The Dementor was supposed to either go after the boy or a member of his family, which would force the whelp to break the underage law, but there wasn't even a blip on the radar, and the stupid creature had returned to the prison before it was even missed. She had been banking on the unnatural attachment that the things had shown for the boy when they were stationed at Hogwarts during the brat's third year. It was her last-ditch effort to get the minister on her side where the little half-blood was concerned. After the tournament that told Coot Dumbledore actually had the gall to declare that he who must be named was alive and that he had killed the Diggory boy. Dolores had been sure that the brat would take up the old man's side and alienate himself as well, but he hadn't taken any side and had stayed mute about the whole event. The minister had branded Dumbledore as a senile old coot, which was perfect for her, but he seemed to think that the boy was an innocent in the whole thing, and the public was more than happy to take up the brat's side. There had even been hearings about removing the boy from his family's care and placing him with a pureblood family, and that just wouldn't do. The boy had been ruining her plans without trying for years, and it was about time that he learned his place. Every time that she had tried to push a new law restricting those disgusting creatures, the minister and Wizarding Gamut shot it down with the excuse that the Savor seemed rather fond of them and it wouldn't do to restrict them so. With the boy out of the way, she would have everything she wanted, and those foul creatures would be properly subdued in their proper place, firmly below wizards and witches. The first of the new Autobots to arrive was named Red Alert, and I didn't even have to ask how he got that name. He managed to take on the form of a fire department ambulance and almost immediately started to rattle off security plans the moment that he arrived at the base. We need better walls with towers and better ammunition storage. Everything will need to be overhauled and reinforced. I can't believe that this is the best that you could acquire on this planet. Exactly how were you planning on standing up to an assault from the Decepticons? He raised what I suppose was his version of an eyebrow, and for a moment I thought that Ironhide was going to shoot him. For your information, we have only been here for a couple of weeks and we haven't heard a peep out of Megatron since the Allspark was destroyed. Ironhide instantly slapped a hand over his mouth as a silence covered the base before the screaming started and Epps rushed me into the human quarters with everyone else close behind. Headmaster, there has been a lot of calls from the public to have Harry removed from his relatives and placed with magical family. The Forerunners are the Malfoys of all people. Minerva was never a fan of the Dursleys, but it would be far worse in her eyes to have the boy left at the mercy of a family like the Malfoys. The headmaster truly looked his age as he rubbed his eyes and looked toward where one of his magical instruments had gone dark. None of the ones that he had had train on Harry would work outside of Britain. I have already told the minister that the boy cannot be removed from the care of his relatives, but my reputation has taken a serious hit and he is disinclined to listen to me, with Lucius lining his pockets with gold. The only bright spot is that they can't remove him from Petunia's care without her consent, and as it stands, they will not be able to find him. All we can do now is wait for him to show up for the school year and make sure that the ministry's lackeys do no corrupt him after that. Minerva barely hid her sneer as she turned in a flurry of robes and strode out of the office with a distinct huff. The boy needed to be found and placed with someone that would take care of him the way that he needed to be taken care of. There was no valid reason to leave him with those things for the summer and only pay attention to him during the school year. She didn't even slow down as she passed by her quarters and instead hurried down the stairs with a determined look on her face. She would find Harry and make sure that he was safe and that he was happy. If he wanted to stay with his family, then that was fine, but if he showed even so much as a twinkle of unhappiness, she was going to find him a better family, even if they ended up being the Malfoys. Megatron stared at the pathetic squishy in front of him with barely restrained disgust. She had told them everything that they had wanted to know about this magical word and about the new Allspark, and for once Megatron thought that Optimus would agree to the slaughter of a weaker being. This woman was a greedy and jealous little thing that had harmed her own family because that member was stronger and better looking than herself. She freely admitted that she had starved the boy and that she had turned a blind eye to the way that her partner and offspring treated him. No sparkling should ever have need to fear their caretakers. It seems that you have outlived your usefulness. What do you mean? The Allspark was destroyed. Red Alert was pacing from one end of the base's runway to the other as his arms flailed about. Optimus could almost swear that he was starting to get what the humans referred to as a headache as the security officer got progressively louder. The humans had been holding the frozen Megatron and the Allspark in the same base when the machinery that held Megatron in that state was attacked and they were forced to flee with the Allspark toward one of their cities. The Decepticons managed to use the city to their advantage and surrounded us. The battle likely would have caused many civilian casualties, but the youngest human here, Harry, took the Allspark and fled with the goal of at least making sure that it was not taken. Megatron sensed the change in location and followed the boy through the city and up one of the tallest buildings. Once there, the boy realized that there was no way to escape Megatron under normal circumstances and jumped off of the building. Optimus was forced to stop his story for a moment until Red Alert calmed back down. The boy then used a rather unique ability that only a fraction of humans possess, something they call magic and hide from the masses, to transport himself from the air to the ground in front of Sam. Unfortunately, magic is known to react very negatively to anything electronic, and we believe that the magic he used destroyed the Allspark completely in transit as Megatron fled the field shortly afterwards. So that small little human not only stood up to Megatron but somehow destroyed the Allspark without any outside help. Red Alert looked at each of the first arrivals with a somewhat skeptical look on his face before turning sharply and heading toward one of the larger hangars that had been deemed a workshop. This magic must be a very powerful energy. Our current defenses are not enough. You do know that he's going to end up making us help him build some strange device or structure within the next couple of days, right? Ironhide sighed and looked at Optimus. It's better than freaking out and doing something stupid, but I reserve the right to shoot him if he starts screaming again. Well, that's the ending of that chapter. I do hope you enjoy this video. If you like to see more, remember to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel and leave a comment down below. Until next time.